The following program contains adult content and sexual themes. Viewer discretion is advised. And it contains murder. Lots and lots of murder.
You stinking bastard.
People tell me, hey, you're gonna go die and go to hell. At least I'm not alone.
For 911, where's your emergency?
Oh, this is Sandy. For 31 Rock Plymouth Road.
What's the
Send the
problem?
police. Send the police.
Hey guys, don't be a hero, mate. And I said I'm not trying to be a hero, but the police are coming.
One in the chest, one in the head. Fired by Detective Sergeant Roger Rogerson.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle.
I would have nailed Carl Williams' hands to a coffee table and just pulled it out of his backside. Carl Williams is a wobbly bottomed little cherub-faced little boy whose life would be.
I'd harm someone each time. I'd kill someone. There'd be an enormous amount, especially at first, enormous amount of horror, guilt, remorse afterwards. But then that impulse to do it again would come back even stronger.
Hello and welcome to Bloody Murder. I'm Tara Saraban.
And hi, I'm Barney Black.
We have some delightful murders for you today.
We certainly do. What are you going to talk about, Tara?
I'm talking about the Otaku murderer. It's a Japanese guy who tried to blame his crimes on the fact that he was really into anime. And I don't know about you, but that's probably why he did it.
Yeah. I don't
know about you.
You're going to portray
think.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you're going to sell?
Because it's okay to kill people and, be a necrophiliac as long as you have good reasons.
I'd go with sick fuck.
Well, yeah, I would also say that, but ladies don't swear.
That is pretty funny. Well, I'm going to talk about the biggest mass murder in Australian history.
Yeah.
And it's not Martin Bryant.
And it's not anyone I've ever heard of.
Yeah, this is an odd one.
Well, that's kind of what we do. The guy I'm doing is a serial killer that I've never heard of either, because that's my jam. And that's what we do here on Bloody Murder. We try and seek out in the nooks and crannies of the world the murderers you may not have already heard of.
Yeah, that's my Vegemite.
Yeah.
That's what we say here in Australia instead of that's my jam.
That's my Vegemite. I prefer Promite though, so what kind of Australian? Yeah, it's a bit sweet and a bit salty.
Oh, that's that English shit, isn't it?
I don't know where it comes from. What am I, a historian?
Far superior.
Nah, it's not sweet. I want sweet and salty. I want all the bad shit all at once.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So, how have you been, Tara? What's been going on?
Well, yeah, it's been one of those shit busy weeks where it's just too much going on, too much multitasking. In fact, I was doing my makeup the other day and eating at the same time. And at one point, instead of the hand mirror, I picked up the plate and I looked into it for a good few seconds, wondering why I couldn't see my reflection. So kind of busy and kind of nutty.
And it's all those crazy flooding going on in Queensland and
northern New South Wales. I'm
Wales.
seeing heaps of that because I actually come from northern New South Wales, or at least I spent a lot of my time there in Mullumbimby. It's famous for two things, marijuana and Iggy Azalea. And I'm a huge fan of one of them, and I only know one of them exists because of the media. I'll let people figure out which way that falls.
Right.
But yeah, it's been flooding and people are being dicks because they can. And they're actually surfing in the floodwaters, which is a bad idea.
Yeah. It's full of sharks and snakes.
Well, a shark washed up, but also there's a lot of angry snakes in there.
Like a Sharknado kind of thing happened.
Well, yeah, it kind of did. A shark washed up somewhere.
That's pretty sweet.
We got flooded when I was a kid, and
Really?
it was really exciting because we got to miss school. But it wasn't as exciting when we had to scrub all the mud out of our house. But the things that washed up were pretty interesting.
Really?
Yeah, near our place, it was cans of sardines and cans of beer.
What, lots of them?
Well, yeah, several of each actually.
So you had to eat and drink them. How old were you?
I was 12. So yes, I.
So you
I
went
did.
through your lunchbox and went, oh God, not sardines
and beer again. God damn you, floods, Mother Nature! Why do you hate me so? Oh, also the name of the hurricane that's causing all of this grief is Debbie.
Oh, that's a very Australian
Cyclone
name, isn't it?
Debbie.
Oh.
So threatening.
And there was some Queenslanders that had signs up before. They weren't evacuating. They had signs up that said, fuck off, Debbie.
Fuck
Did
off.
you see that?
I didn't see that. But they might have just meant the cashier at their local supermarket. I mean, who's to say which Debbie they were talking about?
Look, we love Queensland. It's kind of like our Florida.
Yeah, well, it's warm.
Lots of weird shit happens
and
there.
Gable Toasty lived there.
And there's crocodiles there and stuff.
Yeah, sharks.
Florida has alligators, don't they, or something? I don't know.
Yeah, we have crocodiles. They have alligators. It's very
Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of Queensland friends, and they're great people.
Yeah. They certainly can be. But people, I love people as much as I hate people. Some of them are great, and some of them suck.
I don't know. What's that saying? A stranger's just a cunt you haven't met.
Yeah. A stranger's just a cunt you haven't met. Yeah,
that's right.
So what about you? What's been happening?
Oh, just been working, doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving home from work the other day, and it was raining.
It's always raining right now.
And it was really coming down, and I stopped at the lights, and I saw this woman walking across the road, and she had a pram, and she had that like cover over it, those see-through covers.
Like the clear, yeah.
And, I thought, oh yeah, I'll have a look at this baby, because I like looking at babies.
You like sniffing babies too. It's less perverted than it sounds.
I just like babies.
He's quite paternal.
Yeah, and I thought, I'll have a look at this baby, and I looked at this baby, and I went, oh God, that is the ugliest baby I've ever seen.
Well, the plastic covers distort the face.
No. This baby had a snout. It had this big black mark in the middle of its face, and I thought, oh my God, this baby is so ugly.
Was it a dog?
It was a dog.
It was a dog in a baby pram. Was it me pushing it?
No, there was this woman. She was getting drenched, but this dog was quite happy being in the pram, staying all nice and dry. And it was one of those like flesh-furred, coloured furred.
Okay,
poodles.
so it was kind of like a light caramel, and so you thought it was meant like a person face.
I thought it looked like a person,
but an unattractive baby.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about that dog ever since, really, and how happy it was.
Well, I mean, it would be. Dogs are normally not sort of in strollers with blankets and covers over them. That's one lucky dog.
Apparently in Japan, I was telling this story to someone at work, and in Japan, they just they have clothes and they push them around and.
Okay, so they dress the dog. Yeah, I bet they're like little dogs though. Like they don't have any.
They have shoes on.
Rottweilers with shoes and onesies.
And I'm thinking bonnets.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't put a dog in a pram unless it was wearing a bonnet.
Absolutely.
So should I jump to it?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's hear about this Japanese
serial killer.
Serial killer.
Mm-hmm. His name is Tsutomu Miyazaki, and let's not confuse him with the awesome studio animation house that made Spirited Away and Ponyo.
Hideo Miyazaki, I think his name is.
Yeah. So it's not him because that guy is the best.
Yeah, he rocks.
So anyway, he was nicknamed the Otaku murderer. Otaku is a Japanese term for people with obsessive interests, usually things like anime and manga. Loosely translated, it means geek. So the geek murderer.
Nerd.
Yeah, well, the geeks will inherit the earth, and they have. It was in the Bible. So Miyazaki, as I said before, tried to blame the crimes he committed on comic books and anime, which is how he got that name. His other name is the little girl murderer, and... well, although it's accurate, it's less clickbait for me. I don't think
it's not that imaginative, is it?
So the story's pretty gruesome. Unlike the lovely, pretty, flowery, fluffy kitten stuff I usually talk about.
Yeah, where's the puppies?
They're dead. This guy kills little girls. He does gross sexual stuff to them after he kills them, which is kind of preferable to doing it to them when they're alive in a shit versus diarrhea kind of situation. I won't be going into detail about the gross stuff that he does to them.
Please don't.
I would rather not know it myself, but I do, and it's gross. And it's gross enough, just the concept. So he's a serial killer I'd never heard before, and that's my thing. I'd never heard of him. I still can't hear him as such. But anyway, he was born on the 21st of August 1962, in case someone would like to make an astrological chart for him. He was born prematurely with
Does that make him a Virgo?
No, that actually makes him the tail end of a Leo, I think. Oh, no, hang on a second. Yeah, I think that's still Leo. I'm not sure.
I'm a Taurus. We don't believe in star signs.
You hate star signs. That's why I don't, go there. I used to like reading my star signs when I was younger, but I just wanted them to say that I was going to, fall in love and win money, and neither of which happened properly, I would say. No. I just painted myself into a corner and had nothing to do when I got there.
Oh, well, at least the floor's painted.
yeah, but I painted it red. It's gross. Anyway, he was born prematurely, which left him with deformed hands, which were permanently gnarled and fused directly to the wrists, which meant that he needed to move his entire forearm in order to rotate his hand. I've seen pictures. It's creepy.
So he couldn't play table tennis?
Probably not. In fact, I think that might be the reason for all of this.
Have you ever seen tennis? It's like table tennis, but it's on a massive scale.
What, like, so lots of people playing table tennis at once?
No. Tennis is like table tennis, but it's much bigger where you play.
So, like a big table tennis court?
That's what it is. That's what tennis is.
It's like big table tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care. According to some sources, it was revealed during his trial that he was the product of his father's incestuous relationship with one of his sisters. His deformity meant that he was ostracized and picked on by his classmates. Initially, he did really well at school, but his interest in it waned and so did his grades.
Hey, shitty hands.
Yeah, apparently he did have a complex about it, and so in photographs he would try and not have his hands showing.
Right.
So everyone didn't just go, oh, creepy hands. But it's okay. He did some stuff that made his hands seem like the less creepy thing about him, so that's a thing.
Let's hear about that.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't rush me. It's better if we take it slow. So he was going to attend university and study English and become a teacher. But he kind of lost interest in all that shit and ended up just attending a local junior college and becoming a photo technician. Miyazaki avoided women his own age because he had an inferiority complex about the size of his junk. A high school classmate remarked, "His penis is no thicker than a pencil and no longer than a toothpick. So it's short, but at least it's thin."
Spaghetti-o.
Micropenis aside, the guy had a strong sex drive. At college, he took cameras to tennis courts to take crotch shots of female players to jerk off to.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, it's just a bit of harmless fun. Under Japanese obscenity laws, it was banned to show pubic hair until the early 90s. So trying to look at regular porn meant there were a lot of black bars over stuff. They black out the most important part, Miyazaki said. So by 1984, he'd turned to child porn, which showed everything. Possession of child porn was only banned in Japan in June 2014.
Wow.
So at the time, pubes were bad and kiddie porn was fine. After June 2014, those found with explicit photos or videos of children could be imprisoned for up to 1 year and fined $10,000, but they have an entire year to get rid of the material before finding themselves liable for prosecution.
Oh, that's mental.
Japan only banned the production and distribution of child pornography in 1989. Cultural differences, blah, blah, blah. But seriously, that's seriously fucked up.
Yeah, that's shit.
That's like kids with sex that's not okay at all. I don't want to start another world war, so I'm not going to bang on too much white lady, your culture's bad, but everything aside, it's just
come on, Japan,
a mess.
pull your finger out. That's pretty bad.
We're just with the kids, just not with the kids. Anyway, Miyazaki never displayed much concern for life. "I've killed cats," he later said casually. Oh, casually, hang on. Yeah, I've killed cats. That was pretty casual. Threw one in the river, did another one in boiling water. He also throttled his own dog to death with a strand of wire. So here we are again with the cruelty to animals. Cats fare so badly on this podcast. I was actually thinking if we were to write an autobiography of bloody murder, it would probably be called Small Dicks, Necrophilia and Dead Cats, The Story of Bloody Murder.
Catchy title.
Yeah, well, it sums up all the important things. Oh, actually, I was at work the other day and some people listen to this podcast. And even if they don't, they overhear me mentioning necrophilia sometimes. So there was this guy at work going, "Well, Tara keeps saying the N-word." And I was like, "No, I don't. No, I don't. The N-word, the racist one." And he was like, "Oh, okay, the other N-word, necrophilia." So that's the other N-word.
Necrophilia. That's
yes.
funny.
Yes, he's proclaiming that I keep saying the N-word. I was like, oh, I hope management doesn't walk past right now. Because even the N-word I do say is...
Oh, imagine if they looked at your Google search.
I would just like to be able to see their faces while they did it. So Miyazaki's younger sisters found him repulsive. I think they were right. His parents didn't understand him and cared more about achievement than emotions. The only person in his life who seemed to believe in him was his grandfather, who was a well-regarded man who had served on local council. In May 1988, his grandfather died, which left him feeling abandoned and depressed. He so wanted to retain something from him that he ate some of his ashes. His grandfather's death seems to be the inciting incident that pushed him over the edge. A few weeks later, one of his sisters caught him perving at her while she took a shower. When she told him to get out, he attacked her and slammed her head against the side of the tub. When his mother confronted him about this and told him to spend more time working and less time watching videos, he attacked her too. Get out of my face, Mum. I just want to watch movies and beat my sister.
Sounds fair.
He said during this time he'd thought about suicide, but considering what happens next, I'd say he didn't think about it hard enough. At 3 p.m. on August 22nd, 1988, 4-year-old Mari Kono left her house in Saitama. I wasn't going to ruin it, but I did. Saitama Prefecture to walk a short distance to a friend's house to play. As she made her way across the apartment complex, Miyazaki intercepted her and asked her, "Would you like to go somewhere where it's cool?" The little girl agreed and went with him to his car. Mari played with the buttons on the car stereo as he drove her out near the Shintama power station and strangled her. He then undressed and sexually assaulted her body, leaving her naked and taking the clothes with him. He returned several days later and removed her hands and feet, which he kept in his closet.
That sounds fair.
Well, yeah, I don't really have room for hands and feet in mine, but I guess you could throw some stuff out. He burned her remains in his furnace and ground them down to a powder. He posted this to her family in a box that also contained several of her teeth, pictures of the clothes she had disappeared in, and a postcard which read, "Mari, cremated, bones, investigate, prove." They received those on the 6th of February,
That's
1989.
just cruel.
It's quite
That's
unnecessary
awful.
and it's gross, unlike everything else we talk about. The Kono family also received a lot of creepy phone calls. If they answered, the caller would hang up, but if they didn't answer, he'd keep ringing for up to 20 minutes. Why make prank phone calls to the family of a girl that you've murdered? You already killed their little girl. Now's no time to indulge your fantasies about being one of the jerky boys, you twisted shit stain. At Mari's funeral, her father made a plea to the killer. Her hands and feet didn't seem to be with the remains. When she gets to heaven, she won't be able to walk or eat. Please return the rest of her remains.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it really is. It's so seriously fucked up that there's nothing more to say about it, really. Oh, there's nothing more to say about it. Way to make poison out of your podcast, huh? Yeah, it's going to be silence for the rest of the episode.
And that's another episode of Bloody Murder.
We hope we've left you bummed out. When the Konos returned from their daughter's funeral, they found that they'd received another letter. So I'm just going to read this out. It's delightful. Before I knew it, the child's corpse had gone rigid. I wanted to cross her hands over her breast, but they wouldn't budge. Must have been before he cut them off. Pretty soon the body gets red spots all over it. Big red spots, like the Hinamaru flag, or like you'd covered a whole body with red henko seeds. After a while, the body is covered with stretch marks. It was so rigid before, but now it feels like it's full of water. And it smells. How it smells. Like nothing you've ever smelled in this whole wide world. So you found this guy so far?
No.
Yeah, not really winning friends, but he is influencing people. On October the 3rd, 1988, Miyazaki was driving along a rural road when he spotted 7-year-old Masami Yoshiwawa. He offered her a ride and she accepted. No, don't do it. Don't accept rides. He then drove to the same place that he'd killed Mari Kono and killed Masami. Again, he engaged in sexual acts with her corpse and took the girl's clothes with him when he left. After her parents reported her missing, the police thought there was probably a connection to the disappearance of Mari Kono, but they didn't have any evidence at that point. On the 7th of...
I can edit that out.
Yeah, but you won't, will you?
No, I won't.
Yeah, you won't. Because that was actually...
I can, though.
My best... Yeah, I know that you are entirely capable of doing so.
But I won't.
No, because you're lazy.
No.
And you hate me.
Yes.
It's comforting, like a big warm hug. So on December the 12th, 1988, 4-year-old Erika Nanba was returning home from a friend's house when Miyazaki forced her into his car and kidnapped her. He drove to a parking lot and forced her to remove her clothes in the back seat and began to take pictures of her. After killing her, he tied her hands and feet behind her back and covered her body with a bed sheet and placed it in his car's trunk. He disposed of the girl's clothes in a wooded area and left the body in the adjoining parking lot. Miyazaki sent a postcard to her family, assembled using words cut out of magazines, because that's original. Erika, cold, cough, throat, rest, death. I think he also called her family a bit too.
Oh.
Yeah, Juki boys. On the 6th of June, 1989, Miyazaki convinced 5-year-old Ayoko Nomoto to allow him to take pictures of her. He then led her into his car and murdered her. He covered the corpse with a bedsheet and placed her in the trunk of his car. It's becoming kind of commonplace now. And he took the body to his apartment, and he spent the next 2 days engaging in sexual acts with the corpse and taking pictures of it in various positions and filming it. Because I guess you want a souvenir?
Absolutely. Something to put in the family album.
Yeah, something to put in a frame. This was a good day. On July 23rd, 1989, 2 sisters were playing near a public washstand when Miyazaki stopped his car and got out. "You stay here," he told the 9-year-old, taking the younger child toward a nearby river. The older sister was fucking awesome, and she ran home for her father, who sprinted back to find his daughter naked with a young man focusing a camera between her legs. The father grabbed him and knocked him down, officially becoming everybody's hero.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, you do it. You do it again and again. The man, well, Miyazaki, twisted away and ran to the swampy edge of the river to escape. But then, kind of ridiculously, he returned to his car, where the police, who had already been called, apprehended him on the charge of forcing a minor to commit indecent acts. We won't have a minor committing indecent acts unless it's on film.
Yeah, there's pictures of her are okay.
Yeah, that's okay, but not just generally speaking. 17 days later, Miyazaki confessed to murdering Akio Nomoto, whose skull was found the next day in the hills. The other confessions followed swiftly. First the murder of Erika Nanba, then Mari Kono, of whom video clips were discovered among the 6,000 tapes in Miyazaki's lair. By mid-September, after a preliminary psychological test by NPA psychiatrists concluded that Miyazaki showed no immediately apparent disorders, he confessed to the 4th of the murders of the girls. What's going on? Why can't I talk anymore? On September 6th, Masami's remains were found in the forest. The half-chewed bones of Mari Kono's hands and feet were discovered nearby a week later. So at least her father's plea for the return of her hands and feet, actually, they got them back. Miyazaki's defense team tried to get the death penalty off the table by hiring half a dozen specialists to say that he was insane and had killed the girls because he thought he was in a video game. Oh, I just thought it was a video game. You know, the one where you kill girls and send shit to their parents.
Yeah, I don't know that video game.
You don't play that one?
No.
Oh, I love it. It's great. It's really fun.
Is that Candy Crush?
Yeah, actually, I think it's Candy Crush or Smurf Village. I can't remember which. So the video games made him do it, obviously. That's clear cut. Miyazaki's father refused to pay for his son's legal defense, saying that it would be unfair to the victims' families, and he committed suicide in 1994 by jumping off a bridge.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Completely shamed by what his son did, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not a lot to be proud of in this situation.
Yeah.
The trial began on March 30th, 1990. Miyazaki blamed his actions on Ratman, an alter ego who Miyazaki claimed forced him to kill. Ratman made me do it. Not my fault. Whoops. He spent time during the trial drawing Ratman in cartoon form.
Do you have any of those?
Well, no, not on me, but I do have a really cool tramp stamp tattoo of Ratman because it seemed like a sexy concept.
Wow, cool.
Mm-hmm. You want to see it?
No.
Yeah, good, because, loud. That's my special place. The Tokyo District Court judged him still aware of the magnitude and consequences of his crimes and thereby accountable. He was sentenced to death on April 14th, 1997, and his death sentence was upheld by both the Tokyo High Court and the Supreme Court of Justice. Miyazaki was hanged on June 17th, 2008. Goodbye.
Wow, hung, hey?
Yeah.
Do they still have the
Yeah,
capital
they do.
punishment? And
They still
hang
have capital punishment for murder.
Right.
Not for, like, I don't know,
unpaid parking fines?
like if you fare evade, not for that.
They don't have that?
No, I don't know. Maybe it would
Right.
depend on how many.
Right. You
But,
don't get the death sentence for not sleeping in a cube
It depends if you've also killed people.
or not getting enough used panties from vending machines?
Yeah, actually, I think even if you get the death sentence, if you buy like several dozen used panties, you can probably get out of it. So how crazy is that porn laws
That's
in Japan?
fucked up. What can I say?
I kind of didn't believe it. And so I looked for a lot of sources and I read like Time magazine articles because I kind of was like, internet, you're lying.
That's just encouraging pedophilia, really, isn't
Well,
it?
it's certainly normalizing it.
Yeah.
And it's normalizing it more so than like adult sex, which I can't see the advantage of this at all. But it's interesting that he didn't try to blame porn because even Ted Bundy tried to blame porn for the fact that he was a psychopathic
That's right, he
sadist.
did, didn't he?
Yeah. And some people believe that because they're stupid. But yeah, kiddie porn in Japan, it really blows my mind.
Wow. That's a great story.
Yeah, and so well told.
You don't say so yourself.
Yeah, I fucking did.
Nice.
Yeah, it really it blows my mind. What else can I say? I can't because
No,
my
very
mind's been
interesting.
blown.
I'm going to talk about a guy called William Fraser.
Well, it sounds nice at this point.
He does, doesn't he? And I'm sure you've never heard of him, but William Fraser remains Australia's and one of the world's, if not the worst, mass murderers.
I can't believe I haven't heard of our country's worst mass murderer.
Well, his body count is massive. In the space of around 20 years, from 1857 to the early 1880s, he murdered an estimated 100, some believe closer to 300 Aboriginal people, mostly children and women.
This is why we haven't heard about it, because he was a white guy roaming around killing Aboriginal people.
That's right. He was never arrested, never charged, and never spent a minute in a police cell.
Slippery sucker.
I know. There are only two mass murderers worldwide that beat William Fraser. They're both Colombians, number 1 and 2.
Well, they're good at some stuff, aren't they?
Luis Garavito, known as La Bestia, or the Beast, who killed 138 street children in the 1990s.
Yeah, he was rapey too.
Yeah, he was horrible. Pedro Lopez, known as a monster of the Andes, who raped and killed 110 young girls.
Do you mean George Lopez?
I mean George Lopez.
George Lopez, wow.
Yeah.
And he also had a
1990.
sitcom. He was busy.
Yeah, he was.
So Colombia. Yeah, so coffee, Colombian neckties.
Pedro Escobar.
And Shakira.
And Shakira. Okay, cool. And cocaine.
Her hips don't lie.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe her breasts are small and humble, but that's just so that you don't confuse them with mountains.
Now, before I begin this story about William Fraser,
You'd like to flash me.
Sure. There you go.
Wow, it didn't take long.
No.
It's thin, but at least it's small.
Oh, spaghetti-o. We have to do this thing in Australia. We have to do a warning. Warning, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders listeners are warned that the following program may contain the names of deceased persons, although it does not contain voices of deceased persons.
Yeah, well, we've spent so much, the white people in this country have quite a history of being entirely disrespectful to the Indigenous Australians.
Yeah.
So at least there's a nicety of
Yeah, we do it for cultural
something.
reasons. Any Australian media has to mention this out of respect and to be more sensitive to the different needs and traditions of Native Australians when they have to coping with death.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it. Okay, to the story. The story begins with a grazier by the name...
Is it Alana Grazier? Because she's cool.
No, grazier, like a person who has sheep, I guess.
I would like to
Or
see
cows.
Alana have sheep.
By the name of Andrew Scott, who settled into the Dawson River Basin in 1853, establishing a remote outstation named Hornet Bank.
Hornet Bank? I don't want to go to Hornet Bank.
No.
There would be hornets there. What
there
kind of
would
a
be.
bank deals
I don't like
exclusively in hornets?
I don't like hornets.
No, they don't like you either.
So, yeah, Andrew Scott started this Hornet Bank, but 3 years later, he died of dysentery.
Oh, see, Hornet Bank, it's cursed.
Yes, in 1856. Throughout his time at Hornet Bank, though, he remained extremely observant of the local Aboriginal population, the Yeeman, being very careful not to antagonise or offend. So, good guy, Andrew Scott.
Yeah, good guy. So, of course, he died of dysentery because that's just what happens to nice guys.
Right. His death brought John Fraser. He came to lease Hornet Bank from Scott just before his passing and subsequently took over the property and its problems. With him, his large family, which included his wife Martha and her 8 children, 4 girls and 4 boys.
Her 8 children. Were they their 8 children?
Well, their children, I guess. During Fraser's reign, Hornet Bank became a hangout for the native police, the most feared paramilitary outfit in the land. Simply put, they were sellswords, guns for hire, and bounty hunters.
So were they white or were they indigenous?
Well, I'll get to that.
I want to know now.
Renowned for their savagery, the premise of the native police was overtly simple. Have one Aboriginal person track and slaughter another. The native police would never kill their own tribesmen, but had little sympathy for distant hostile groups they had no allegiances to.
So they're mercenaries.
They're mercenaries.
Yeah.
The worst kind of people, you know.
The worst kind of people. I don't know on a show like this if that's something that holds a lot of water, but they aren't good.
I don't know. They kill for money.
They kill for money. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
I mean, it's not good, is it?
No, it's not good. Anyway, the Yeeman people resented the invasion of these European squatters who were attempting permanent residency without permission or negotiation.
Well, yeah, that's what happened in this country. We just sort of came in and went, it's ours now, motherfuckers.
The Yeeman people resented the invasion of these European squatters who were attempting permanent residency without permission or negotiation. I said that.
Yeah, you did. But you know what? It was such an important point that you just wanted to, like, make sure it hit home, right? That was deliberate. I'm admiring your artistry right now.
Thank you. Regular cruelty towards the Yeeman people inflamed their already overwhelming sense of injustice.
Sounds like you're saying the human people.
Yeeman.
Yeah.
They made the surrounding country dangerous for the Frasers. Shepherds in boundary huts were attacked and killed, and settlers feared leaving their wives and children unprotected. Although contemporary reports of the events stress the bloodthirsty nature of the Yeeman, contrasted with only kindness shown to them by the Fraser family.
Oh, so Whitey was just real nice, and the like indigenous people were horrid.
Well, the victors get to write.
Yeah, the
history.
people who can write in English get to write the history, right?
Yeah, that's right. The war between the Frasers and the Yeeman escalate after the deaths of 12 Yeemen shot for spearing some cattle, and the death some months earlier of an unknown number of Yeemen who had been given a strychnine-laced Christmas pudding, allegedly by the Fraser family.
Merry fucking Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. In 1857, 2 white men rode their horses to the nearby Aboriginal camp. They arrived on a day when the Yeeman men had left the women and children alone. They may have been away hunting or visiting another tribe. The Aboriginal women were rounded up by the visitors. They used 2 stock whips to muster them up like
hang on.
cattle.
That's gross. That's the whole treat people like animals thing.
When the women and girls were packed into a tight circle, they picked the 2 that they thought were the prettiest.
This isn't going to end well, is it?
Yeah, and dragged them away to a nearby stockman's hut. When they'd finished raping the girls, they let them... I know. They let them make their way back to their families.
Yeah, go tell your friends,
Yeah,
right? We're so tough and powerful. We're white gods.
The 2 frightened girls told the old Yeeman women what had happened. The women waited for their men to return. The men of the tribe held some respect for the Fraser family.
Not anymore.
Well, they decided they would wait to see whether the men would be punished by their own.
Yeah, did that happen?
We'll be waiting a while. But after the Frasers learned of what happened, they did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 men that had ridden out to round up the 2 Aboriginal girls were an unnamed visiting stockman and the Frasers' English school teacher, Henry Nagle.
That's not how you teach English.
No, absolutely not. A few weeks later, as the Frasers slept in their beds between 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, a large group of Yeemen crept up to the homestead. They carried weapons, tomahawks and nullah-nullahs, which are kind of like a big club. Yeah. They found the teacher asleep in his bed. After killing Henry Nagle, the Aboriginal tribesmen cut off his junk.
Oh, what a shame.
What a shame.
He could have done so much raping with that junk had they not cut it off.
I know. Others in the house were Martha Fraser and all but one of her children.
Oh, see, this is like that eye for an eye thing where now they're going to do wrong shit.
This is not going to end well. There were also 2 white station hands who had lived in a hut 1 kilometre from the station, and Jimmy, an Aboriginal servant. The evening before the attack, Jimmy persuaded to help the Yeemen had killed all the station dogs.
Oh, so they had an insider.
They had an insider.
Oh my God, so
the
they
dogs wouldn't bark and
Animals, it's so bad. If we ever bring up an animal on this show, it never ends well.
No, it doesn't go well for them, does it? According to
I'm
all
sorry,
contemporary
puppies.
accounts, Yeeman initially intended to kidnap one of the Fraser women, but things got out of hand after the first Fraser to confront them was killed. The attackers killed the men, raped the three oldest women.
Okay, see, that's not helping, is it?
No. Clubbed them and the remaining children to death and speared to death the two station hands as they arrived to wash up before retiring for the night. The only survivor was 14-year-old Sylvester West Fraser.
Sylvester, that seems like an uncommon name for the time and the
Yeah,
era.
and his
area?
nickname is
Area?
West for some reason.
West, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought Sylvester was a bit weird, bit out there.
Well, anyway, he was hit on the head with a waddy, which is another kind of club, and had fallen between the wall and the bed. The Aboriginals were distracted by the arrival of the two station hands, allowing Sylvester to crawl under his mattress, and he was forgotten.
That's how one of the women escaped from Richard Speck when he killed all the nurses. She hid under the bed, but that means if you're hiding under the bed while this goes down, it means that you have to like hear it all,
That's
right?
He lay there listening in horror to the screams and moans of his brothers and sisters dying around him.
Oh, that's
Eventually, there
horrid.
was nothing but silence. His mother was dead, his three brothers were dead, his four sisters, the schoolmaster, and the two shepherds.
Wow.
Sylvester ran when they left, and apparently the report here says, without hats or boots, in a terribly bruised state. He ran 12 miles, which is 19 kilometres.
That is a freaking long way.
That's a long run. To a nearby Carden station and raised the alarm. Settler William Miles from the neighbouring station arrived, along with Superintendent Richard Bolton, to find the Fraser family massacred and laid out in the dirt outside their home.
Are you sure it wasn't Michael Bolton?
I wish. Mr. Miles, in a statement he gave days later, described the scene. So I've got his actual original statement.
Is it a bit yieldy?
It's a bit yieldy.
Oh, cool.
I'll try and hammer through it.
No, just relax into it. Ease into
All
it,
right.
man.
When I reached Hornet Bank, on centering through the slip panel near the stockyard, I saw the dead body of a little girl about 8 or 10 years, which I recognised as a daughter of Mrs. Fraser, he recounted. Betwixt the home and the kitchen, I saw the bodies of Mrs. Fraser, her eldest daughter Lizzie, and two young children, a boy and a girl, under the veranda in front of the house.
Welcome.
John Fraser, a young Fraser, not Fraser.
Fraser.
That's Fraser.
Oh, they killed him and
John
he was
Fraser,
so smart.
a young man of about 27 years of age, also dead. Outside of the veranda lay David Fraser, a young man of about 17 years of age, also dead. After some search, I discovered the body of another daughter, Mrs. Fraser, about 13 years of age.
Sorry, the 13-year-old daughter's married. Oh, actually, you know what? Wouldn't
She probably
surprise
was.
me, actually.
I saw nulla weapons belonging to blacks lying all around the bodies. All appeared to have been killed by tomahawks and nulla. It appeared to me that John Fraser, David Fraser, and Nagel had all three been murdered in their sleep.
Well, they got the good end of that stick, didn't they?
Yeah. I afterwards went down to the hut and found the bodies of the two shepherds, recognised by me as being in the employment of the Frasers, but whose names are unknown to me.
Recognised by me?
From the fact that these men had been completely dressed, I surmise they had risen and dressed without being aware of the murder of the family, the hut being 200 to 300 yards from the house. There appears to have been a struggle betwixt one of the shepherds, a German
shepherd? Is he a German shepherd?
and the blacks whose tracks were visible around him.
I thought the guy killed all the dogs.
Yes. I have every reason to believe, and in truth have no doubt, that the women were violated previous to their murder.
Well, that was unnecessary.
Yeah. I covered over the bodies that day, and the next day I returned and buried the bodies. The house and premises were completely sacked. One of the family, a boy I heard named West, escaped by hiding under the bed. I have seen him since and heard his account, which naturally is somewhat confused. The body of Nagel was mutilated in a shameful manner after his murder.
Oh, that's the one whose cock they cut off, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Signed,
It's
Palm
not how
Tree
you teach
Creek.
English.
November 10, 1857.
What was his name? Palm Tree Prick?
No, Palm Tree Creek.
Okay,
that must have been the name of the station. The Fraser family and the two shepherds were buried on the property. There would be no autopsy, no proper records of their injuries.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of death. That's some bloody murder right there.
Oh, that's just the start.
Oh, right. Okay. That's just the icing on the murder cake.
That's just the start. Meanwhile, nearby station hands immediately formed a posse and located a large mob of Aboriginals
We need vengeance.
sleeping some 10 miles, 16 kilometres from the Fraser property. They executed a lot of them, including women and children.
Oh, hang on. Were these people the ones responsible or just random Aboriginal
Random.
people? Oh, okay. We're going to get random.
But here's the kicker.
That's gonna
William
work.
Fraser, who was away in Ipswich at the time of the massacre.
Sorry, is he the dad? Or
He's
is he...
the dad.
Okay.
Yeah, decides to start a murderous rampage after his his oldest son.
Okay, well, you would be pretty pissed if your
Yeah.
whole family had just been wiped out.
After his little brother Sylvester rode to Ipswich to inform him of the killings of his entire family, the pair returned to Hornet Bank, covering the 320 miles in 3 days with 3 changes of horses.
That's a really long way
Yeah,
on
they
horseback.
They galloped.
They would be galloping the hell out of that.
Yeah. William Fraser, who was, I said that, allowed to ride with the native police, William Fraser had every opportunity to assuage his grief through murder. He was killing randomly wherever he found Aborigines.
See, that's not really the way to get revenge. That's kind of just genocide, isn't it?
It really is. He shot an Aboriginal jockey at the racetrack at Taroom.
A jockey?
Just a jockey, random jockey.
Random jockey had nothing to do with the
Yeah.
murder of your family.
And after 2 Aboriginals accused of being involved in a massacre were found not guilty in court, he shot them both dead as they left the Rockhampton courthouse.
Guilty by reason of lead.
It was reported that after Fraser shot an Aboriginal woman in the main street of Toowoomba,
Oh, well, that's going a bit far.
because he claimed she was wearing his mother's dress, 2 policemen spoke with him briefly before saluting and walking away.
You know what? We like what you're doing, but maybe less killing women on the street. Love your work. Mwah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
This incident reinforced a local belief that government had given him 12 months immunity from prosecution, during which he was free to avenge the massacre.
Right. Just go kill them all. You got 12 months, and then we'll just put a lid on it.
Well, years later, 1905, Fraser was asked if he had authority. He replied, "I never asked and never received such an authority, but I felt I was justified in doing so."
That's some rage.
It was reported that Fraser later accepted a commission in the Rockhampton Native Police Force.
Oh, well, you may as
to
well do it
continue his
professionally,
campaign
right?
Against the Yeeman. Yeah.
May as well be making bank.
It was reported later that in 1867, 10 years after the massacre, Lieutenant William Fraser and his troopers were tracking...
Oh, he got promoted. That's good.
Were tracking a small group of Yeeman women and children who had taken refuge on the Mackenzie Station on the Fitzroy River. Informed that Fraser was approaching, Mrs. Mackenzie hid the Aboriginals in her bedroom. Fraser demanded to search the house and did so, but Mackenzie stood in front of her bedroom door and refused to allow him to search the room.
So she's one of those tough, like older, like, you know,
Patriarch kind
ye
of-
olde
matriarch,
day
kind of
chicks
thing.
living off the earth. Okay, she
Yeah.
sounds cool. I like her.
Fraser left empty-handed up. Mackenzie gave him all the contents of her tongue.
All the content. That sounds like a head job.
Well,
A little bit.
no, it means she did some profanity.
I thought she might have eaten some sandwich and spat it out. Profanity? Oh, you know I don't like profanity.
Well, there's no report of what she said, but I did some
that's
research.
probably unprintable.
I did some research and I looked up some nice 1860s, and I'd say she'd be Irish.
Yeah.
So
You're going to hit me with some
go
18
to hell and help your mother make bitch pie.
bitch pie.
May you be afflicted with an itch and have no nails to scratch with.
Ooh, hush.
You jollikin' gib-face flapdoodle. You get total momsy nose after 2 beers.
You get a mumsy nose.
Momsy nose is when you get a real red nose. It's covered in acne.
W.C.
and-
Fields.
Yeah.
After
that
2
kind of
beers,
thing.
you're lightweight.
So yeah, your jollikin' gib-face flapdoodle. That's fantastic.
Oh, it's a shame we've already named the podcast.
I know. William Fraser almost certainly killed over 100 members of the tribe, making him the greatest mass murderer in Australian history.
The greatest. You're simply the best.
Many more were killed by sympathetic squatters and policemen. In an article recounting the massacre, it was reported that the mere mention of the Fraser's name by settlers was enough to avoid trouble when they faced natives.
Whoops. Killed a couple of dozen Aboriginals. Fraser's a safe word.
Yeah.
Ugh, genocide is just never good.
Like-minded mobs matched Fraser's desire for revenge. The killing squads were pulled together as news of the Hornet Bank killings radiated across southern Queensland. The most notorious of these was the Browns posse, who literally gunned down any Aboriginal man, woman or child they came across, riding for weeks across the country.
They're using it as an excuse to just be homicidal maniacs.
That's right. It's believed they murdered dozens of innocent Yeeman. Few Yeemen
Oh my
survived.
God.
Some managed to flee to Maryborough, that's 300 kilometres east. But even there, they were unsafe. The police continued harassing them for a number of years after. Fraser's revenge campaign eventually resulted in the believed extermination of the Yeeman tribe
Whoa.
and their unique culture and language.
Oh my God. And they're the ones that like got messed with first as well. Like they didn't
Yeah, that's
start
genocide. It's just awful.
Oh, Jesus.
Absolutely. Sylvester Fraser,
Sylvester.
the little boy that recovered,
Yeah.
14 or something. He never recovered either physically or mentally.
The little boy that recovered never recovered. That was
Yeah.
false advertising, wasn't it?
I know. He remains subject to fits during which blacks fled from him in alarm, despite him being harmless. It was reported that he died a broken man. William Fraser lived to a ripe old age of 83 in Mitchell, Queensland. That's
Well,
when he
you
died.
know, revenge killing will do that for
In
a guy.
1914. Noting that he left behind 2 sons and 14 daughters.
What?
I know.
14?
Yeah.
Oh, he must have really wanted more sons, I guess.
Yeah, he must have remarried. His obituary also stated that any blacks that crossed Fraser's path for many years after the massacre got a particular bad time. No shit.
Yeah. Wow. So if someone does something wrong to you, you can hold a whole race responsible, huh?
Well,
That sounds really scientific.
In October 1957, to commemorate the centenary of the killings, a concrete memorial was erected at the graveside by Andrew Scott's descendants.
Concrete. How fancy.
Yeah, there's pictures of it. I'm sure we'll put it up on our Facebook page.
Yeah, it will. Does it
I mean,
show...
it's awful what happened to his family.
Yeah, it
but
is.
Still,
It's not great. The whole thing's just insanity.
For all you listeners who don't know a lot about what's been going on in Australia with our Indigenous population, I'll give you a couple of facts. Indigenous Australians arrived in Australia between 61,000 and 52,000 years ago, although a study in 2014 suggests up to 100,000 years ago.
They had this place a long time before
They've had
old
this place
Whitey
a
came
long
along.
time. Although there are a number of commonalities between Indigenous Aboriginal Australians, there is also a great diversity among different Indigenous communities, each with its own mixture of cultures, customs and languages. At the time of initial European settlement, over 250 languages were spoken.
250?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's heaps.
It's currently estimated that 120 to 145 of these remain in use, but only 13 of these are not considered endangered. The population of Indigenous Australians at the time of permanent European settlement is contentious and has been estimated to between 318,000 and 2 million.
Whoa, that's a big gap.
Yeah. A population collapse followed European settlement, and a smallpox epidemic spreading 3 years after the arrival of the Europeans may have caused a massive and early depopulation. Same with the Native Americans, I guess.
Yeah, quite similar. I wonder if they even got some blankets out of it.
Yeah. The population now is 670,000, which is 3% of the population of Australia.
Yeah, it's not high.
Life expectancy is estimated to be 10.6 years lower than that of non-Indigenous population.
Well, in this current day and age.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, here's something that just disgusted me.
As opposed to all the fun things we were talking about earlier.
Aboriginal people are massively overrepresented in the criminal justice system of Australia. They represent only 3% of the total population, like I said, yet are more than 28% of Australia's
28%?
prison population.
Wow.
Aboriginal.
Okay. Whoa, I did not know that.
It's horrible. I know. Look, there's been a lot of governments that have thrown money at it and tried to fix this, but it's...
There's some really ingrained issues. I mean...
There really are.
It's like Australia Day is the 26th of January here, and that's when Captain Cook came, and, well, the Aboriginals probably haven't had a good day since.
A lot of people call it Invasion Day.
Yeah, Invasion Day. There's quite the hoo-ha about changing the date of that, because it was kind of, you know... when the entire country got taken over by white people and the Indigenous Australians were just like, well, kind of decimated. So, yeah, Australia. It's got a happy history. That's really amazing. I'm really surprised that I hadn't heard that story.
Well, yeah, I had to do a lot of research to find, and I couldn't really, I had to just sort of
Make it all of it up.
Make it all up. No.
Is that why Michael Bolton was in it? Because I thought that was weird.
A lot of the accounts are from newspapers.
Right.
And they're going to tell
Oh,
one
and the
side of
newspapers
story.
used to actually have Australia for the white man written
Yeah.
on them until like horribly recently.
Yeah.
I mean, not in my lifetime, but still too recently for good taste.
Anyway, yeah, great story.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we got an Aussie as?
Yeah, we do. Actually,
Yay.
this kind of ties in because there's some Aboriginal stuff in it, but it's like happier because, well, I don't know.
I think they kind of win this one, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do.
All right, let's
I've
hear it.
cried happier than the last story. Okay, so Tea Tree is a small town, 160 kilometres or 99 miles north of Alice Springs in Darwin. In 1991, what seemed like a straightforward arrest for loitering turned into a street fight in which police were assaulted with frozen kangaroo tails. Acting Senior Constable Mark Coffey and police tracker Jimmy Hines were called out to remove a man who was sitting in the middle of the Stewart Highway. A fight ensued and the police were forced back to the police station. When they made another attempt to remove the man, they claimed they were set upon by up to 15 people armed with frozen kangaroo tails. Senior Constable Coffey said, "It was like being hit by a lump of wood. I feel like I've been 4 times on the football field." The man in the middle of the road and 5 others were arrested after reinforcements were called in from Alice Springs. The 6 have been charged with various counts of assaulting police, resisting arrest, and riotous behaviour. The manager of the Tea Tree Roadhouse, Mr. Gregory Dick, Mr. Dick to you, Barney, who sells the frozen kangaroo tails with the fur still on for $5.20 a kilogram, said the whole thing was pretty funny to watch.
How much would a kangaroo tail weigh?
Well, actually, he says further down, he says they weigh up to 4 to 5 kilos. So it's actually not a cheap. Well, I guess it's cheaper than an actual weapon, but it ain't cheap.
Oh.
It was pension day yesterday, and I suppose I sold 20 or 30 tails, he said. When the fight started, people ran a bit amok. Women and fellas together, the whole lot. The tails were better than a nulla, just about a lethal weapon. I know from earlier you mentioned nullas. They're like hardwood clubs. It was really good to see. I love Mr. Dick's enthusiasm. It was dangerous in a way. The tails of big boomers are 3 to 4 feet long and weigh up to 4 kilos, but it was enjoyable to watch. I was joking to the women this morning that I wouldn't sell any more tails because they were dangerous weapons. But the case of the frozen kangaroo tails may be more complicated than simple assault. Acting Senior Constable Coffey did not keep any of the alleged offensive weapons as evidence. I didn't take them back to the station because they would have melted and gone off, he said. Anyway, by the time we got around to arresting the others, the tails had been eaten. According to a Northern Territory law lecturer, this might weaken the police case if the defendants were to plead not guilty. The usual thing to do, at the very least, would be to photograph the weapons, she said. A quite recent Commonwealth action was thrown out of court because samples of allegedly illegal imported foods were not kept by the authorities. If the police tried to adduce evidence as to the effects of being hit by a frozen kangaroo tail and cannot produce the alleged weapon, it might make it difficult for them. But Mr. Dick is unconcerned. Mr. Dick. If you were called Mr. Dick, you'd usually be unconcerned, I reckon.
I think he's pretty chill.
Yeah. I'll continue to sell them, he said. I have plenty in stock. Maybe it will become an Olympic sport.
Sure.
Makes more sense than hurling. Curling, not hurling. Hurling's the Irish one, but it's quite violent.
Yeah, curling's the one on the ice.
Where they
isn't it?
just like sweep the ice.
And they do that
and there's a
frantic
thing.
sweeping.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I love that.
You love that?
Shit.
Yeah,
Love that
you're
shit,
into
Tara.
that?
Oh, yeah.
Should I get us some tickets to go see some?
I'd be fascinated to see it live.
That would be, okay, I'm going to make that happen, even if it costs me money and bores me senseless.
And I'd go to the kangaroo tail thing too.
Well, yeah, I would absolutely go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to watch it from a distance, but I think it sounds like fun.
Yeah.
It would really hurt to get hit by one if they're like 4 feet long.
What was that movie where the girl had the bow and arrow and she had to shoot everybody?
Are you talking about the Jennifer Lawrence thing?
Yeah.
I think it was called...
Mockingjay or
No.
The Hunger Games?
No, definitely not. Last Tango in Paris.
I'm pretty sure it was called The Hunger Games.
No, Last Tango in Paris.
Let's see that movie done, but with kangaroo tails.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Let's not call it Last Tango in Paris because now I've got a really bad image happening with the butter and the kangaroo tail.
Oh, yeah. No, let's not talk about that.
Okay. I think that's us out. I think I've sufficiently been vile and gross. And that's like what people find really lovely.
Hey, Tara, there's been this thing about me having to try mac and cheese.
Oh, the mac and cheese gate scandal.
I will try mac and cheese. I did buy a packet of it.
You bought the shit kind, the craft one that they told you not to buy.
It looked disgusting. It looks like carbicide to me.
Well, it's going to be carbicide, but if you're going to commit carbicide, you want it to be worth it.
I will do the mac and cheese. I will try it.
Yeah, he will, but not not that like prepackaged one, because that's not meant to be the way to do it. Can some Americans just post us some mac and cheese? We don't really have it everywhere here. It's not as
it's
big
in
a
the
thing.
supermarkets. It's
Yeah, but
you
like
know.
in those packets, it's not like they're
Well, what do
talking
they
about
eat it out
something.
of? Do they just make it themselves?
I think they make it themselves because it is essentially like pasta and a cheese sauce. It's not difficult.
Right.
I'd offer to make it for you, but fuck that.
Hey, we need you to rate,
Rate and review.
subscribe.
Preferably good ratings and good reviews, but you know,
Yeah, it really does help us. Please do that for us.
it is
Be
helpful.
your best friend.
Barney will be your best friend, and I'll
Yeah.
think about it. Also, check out our Facebook group if you want to see pictures of the people involved in the delightful stories.
And we
tell.
have a Twitter now.
We do have a Twitter that I barely use because I don't understand it.
I'm going to tweet the shit out of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
No.
tweet about the episodes happening, and then I just like forget that it exists and hide under my bed for a few days. Yeah, good note to end on, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, under the
Okay.
bed. What's Twitter? I don't know. What's a Twitter? You tell me. Yeah, I'll work it out
I'm
eventually.
pretty happy with my MySpace page.
Yeah, well, that's because it's an awesome MySpace page.
It is. It's got toasters, flying toasters.
Whoa, what will they think of next?
I know.
All right. Well, have a good week, everyone.
Bye. Adios.
They had the intercom on in the room, and they kept lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.